I'm very proud that the majority of parties in the Parliament have made clear that it will not be passed into law. You can debate whether we should even be having this discussion, but that is as it is, and remember, the New Zealand public voted for MMP, and that is a complexity that we have to manage. But I hope and pray that there will not be a movement that takes the treaty out of context. Look, I'm on behalf of the government and the people of New Zealand delivered one of their many apologies in terms of the things that had been done wrong. I carry this every day and understand and watch the weight of pain of people who had been disenfranchised and had their resources taken. I find it ironic that the ACT Party, who claims to uphold business ethics and the sanctity of contracts, is in the process of trying to undo one of the most fundamental contracts that our nation has ever seen put in place. And despite its fragility at times, we've remained faithful to that contract. And I encourage New Zealanders, as demanding as it sometimes is, to remain faithful to the treaty, which was a gift to us all. And we're a young nation, but we've gone further more quickly than many others. And to create a fire in this runs the risk of creating a civil environment where people are pushed to the extremes. I invite people to consider carefully as they see folk raising their voice. It's not in aggression to individuals. It's a raising of voice, whether it's the haka in the Parliament or voices on the hikoi. You know, many National Party people have been on the hikoi. Dame Whina Cooper was a National Party member. It was the National Party that brought back the reo and ensured that it was available and saved. It was a National Party that's done most of the settlements. And I can tell you, I don't expect people necessarily to vote for us on that basis, but our party has always done the right thing, and the Prime Minister is correct to say, despite the complexity of MMP, the National Party, and thankfully the majority of other parties, will not allow this division to occur. When I first became Prime Minister in 1997, the Crown was not going to Waitangi because there had been incidents, little flare-ups, which the media, by the way, love, and so we were not talking. I made a decision immediately that 2 months later I was going to go against all the advice, because I believe if we can't speak together and listen to each other, particularly in the context of Waitangi where the treaty was signed, how can we move forward? It's a bit like a relationship, walking out the door and saying, all right, I'm not speaking to you. Well, that's nice, but it doesn't take you anywhere. And for me, standing in the heart of the treaty, where we said we'd govern together, and look, here we have a parliament where 33 of our 123 members whakapapa Maori. How lucky are we to have that? So I don't accept the argument that somehow or other we are not governed in the spirit of the treaty. That proportion, by the way, is higher than the Maori population at 17%. So the treaty has become ingrained in each political party, where they ensure that they have members that reflect Tā Māori and issues related to Maori interests, but also New Zealand's interests. So it's not only the Maori Party that speaks for Maori. Many members across the Parliament speak for Maori, and they speak for themselves. And in the land issues, we're making great progress. We're nearly there. I live up in the Tretay area, and it's the last big settlement. And of course there will be others that may arise, but New Zealand can be proud of its redress, where we we just made a terrible mess and stolen land and misused the undertakings of the treaty. And we as a people have tried to put that right. That's a matter of pride. And of course, as citizens, we've got work to do, and there's disparity, but we can do that as a nation. And I just despise people who want to use a treasure, which is what the treaty is to me, and use it as a political tool that drives people to the left or the right, as opposed to inform us from our history and let it then deliver a future that is actually who we are as New Zealanders. I treasure the Maori history that is now available to me because it is who we all are, but we're not the same. We've agreed to live in a nation where we have a shared heritage, a dual heritage, but the treaty invites us into a space where we say, despite our differences, we will respect those differences, make some contractual arrangements, and move ahead together in an attempt to create a new nation. And we are well on the way to do that. So I condemn David Seymour for his using this, asking public for money to fuel a campaign that I think really is going to divide New Zealand in a way that I haven't lived through in my adult life. There's been flashpoints, but I view this incredibly seriously. Look, the treaty has helped us navigate. When people have had to raise their voice, it's brought us back to what has been an enduring relationship where people then try to find their way forward. And I thought the voices of this week were completely and utterly appropriate. Whether they meet standing orders, I'll put that aside. The voice of Maori that reminds us that this was an agreement, a contract, and you do not rip up a contract and then just say, well, I'm happy to rewrite it on my terms, but you don't count. I would raise my voice. I'm proud that the National Party has said they will not be supporting this because you cannot speak out of both sides of your mouth. And I think any voice that's raised, and there are many people, Pākehā and Māori, who are not necessarily on the hikoi, who believe that a relationship is something you keep working at. You don't just throw it in the bin and then try and rewrite it as it suits you. Regret that people started to try and write principles. And it's no surprise that Geoffrey Palmer, when he did that, he couldn't codify them. There wasn't support to codify it into law or to change the treaty in any particular way. And I think that's an important issue. While there have been principles leak into individual statutes, we have never attempted to, in formal sense, put principles in or over top of the treaty as a collective. And I caution New Zealand, the minute you put the treaty into a political framework in its totality, you are inviting civil war. I would fight against it. Maori have every reason to fight against it. This is a relationship we committed to where we would try and find a way to govern forward. We would respect each other's land and interests rights, and we would try and be citizens together. And actually, we are making outstanding progress. And this sort of malicious, politically motivated, fundraising motivated attempt to politicize the treaty in a new way should raise people's voices, because it is not in New Zealand's immediate interest. And look, people should be careful what they wish for. If people polarize, we will finish up in a dangerous position. The treaty is a gift to us to invite us to work together. And look, we've been highly successful in doing that, despite the odd ruption on the way.